Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone is having a good Monday. I hope you had a great weekend. Just wanted to get our week 4 summary out. I can't believe we're in week 4 already. I'm going to apologize in advance. I have a cat sitting right next to the computer, so in case he jumps out here or you hear him purring, that's what it is. So, um, good job this past week in the discussion boards. Sometimes the meaningful use stuff can be a little confusing. So, good job there. I would agree that I think probably a good majority of folks chose the information related to uh, health information. So, be it maintaining compliance or attaining compliance with various aspects of health security, health information security, or the sharing of information. Those are, I mean, obviously all of meaningful use is related to health information, but some of the more security related or transactional related aspects. And those are those are concerning. And probably one of the most concerning things that I'll share, the HIPAA security rule has been around and in place for, gosh, at this point, almost 15 years. And many of those security aspects, like risk assessment, um, constant monitoring, those rules have been in place since that time. So the fact that we're still pressing providers to be sure that those things are occurring is somewhat disappointing, and for someone that worked on that side of the industry to press providers to become compliant with those rules at that time, it's disturbing that they're still not compliant. Um, so yeah, I think it is difficult for agencies to get into compliance with those rules, and ultimately, to become compliant really will help to protect the information of our patients, and hopefully we won't continue to see those massive breaches of information that we are still seeing on a regular basis. Um, so that would be a step in the right direction. Um, okay, so I want to go over 4 quiz questions from this week that were missed. So the first one is, what is the role of an institutional review board or an IRB? And the answers given: establish guidelines for the method of conducting research, verify the results of clinical trials, approve and monitor research that involves human subjects, or all of the above. So the IRB, and we have an IRB at Robert Morris. I work with them quite a bit. The IRB is all about protecting the human subject. So they don't get involved really in developing your research. They don't get involved in your results. What they really do is, if you're preparing a research study, they will take your research study proposal and they will look at it to make sure that you have appropriately protected the human subjects. What in there, if you're doing questionnaires, if you're doing interviews, if it's some kind of an intervention of some sort, if it's a medical study. So what in that particular study it has that interaction with the human subject, and in that, are they protected? And there were some very horrible things done to human subjects many years ago in the name of research that have created many laws, the Belmont Report, and many laws since then to make sure that human subjects are now protected under these types of boards. Like I said, we do have one at RMU, and most major institutions have an institutional review board, and then there are, many hospitals have one if they are running research, and then there are actually independent ones too for organizations that don't have their own IRB. They can go to an independent IRB to have their human subject monitoring completed. So the answer to this was approve and monitor research that involves human subjects. Second question, the point at which marginal benefits equal marginal costs, and there were several answers: flat of the curve, minimum cost efficiency, optimum point, and equal intensity. So the answer is optimum point, and I'm going to flip the slide here. This is just a little bit of economics for us. But so when we talk about marginal benefit versus marginal cost, so on our little slide here, which I borrowed from a wiki class online, one of those what they call MOOCs, major open online courses, that was actually an economics class. But when you think about marginal benefit, that's going to be our supply line. So this is our marginal benefit line. This is going to be our marginal cost line. So when you think about something like, and we'll think about maybe eating food of some sort. So let's say you're eating food, and so you're eating maybe pizza, or you're eating chicken wings, or you're eating eat pizza and chicken wings because I had that yesterday watching football. But so you're eating pizza and chicken wings, or you're eating apples or anything. So on this side of the line, the in here, this is kind of I'm going to say like the sweet spot where there is, you're paying, you're paying for it. You're feeling satiated because you have your pizza or you have your chicken wings, and this is a good, happy place. But you're going to get to a point here where you're going to reach this where the X comes together. And this right here is what's known as the optimum point, or the optimal point, where you have reached sufficiency. And you don't necessarily need any more chicken wings. You don't need any more apples. You don't need any more pizza. That marginal benefit has equaled marginal cost. So those points have now come together, and it's an efficient. You have reached efficiency. You don't, if you were to eat more, you might get sick, or you would be out of money, or you would be going to the other side of that curve. So you don't want to go to the other side of that curve. To run a most efficient operation, and that's those are obviously, that would be a kind of a silly example. This is more about running an efficient operation. But to be in your most efficient operation, you want to be at this optimum level where marginal benefit equals marginal cost. That's your optimum point. Now, what's odd about the healthcare operation is this is in a perfect system. Healthcare does not necessarily run like a perfect system, because oftentimes we run in almost a more monopolistic system where our supply and demand don't necessarily run in an X like this, just because of the nature of our system. Interestingly, if you are in the Pittsburgh area, we may run in more of a supply and demand system like this because of the competition between the two major players. But in a lot of areas, it's really not as much of a pure supply and demand system, because there's usually one major player in the market, and then many other small fish. So it's not a perfect marketplace like retail, or like restaurants would be, or grocery stores, but it can give us an idea of how that marginal benefit and marginal cost, when you reach that sweet spot right in the middle, that is our optimum point, that's optimal efficiency. Okay, next question. Safe Devices Medical Act. So this is an act of 1990. And there were several answers. I won't go ahead and read them all, but our correct answer was that injuries, illness, or death from any device had to be reported. And this reporting had to be done to the manufacturer, but also in some cases you had to report that to the FDA as well. But it was for injuries, illness, or death from a device. There was one other answer in here that talked about um, problems and potential problems to be reported. That was not the correct answer. The correct answer was injuries, illness, or death from any device had to be reported, and they do all of them have to be reported to the manufacturer. And in some instances, there were some that do require to be reported to the FDA as well. So it depended on the situation. Things had to be reported to the FDA. And then finally, the last one. Generally, at the start of medical treatment, there are several answers, but the correct answer was benefits exceed costs. So, again, kind of looking at the economic side of things, benefits tend to exceed costs at the beginning of treatment because oftentimes, right at the beginning of treatment, patient is reaping benefits immediately. Costs are just starting as opposed to costs over time, and so benefits do exceed costs. And as you probably read about in your book, over time they will, costs can exceed benefits, and in the healthcare industry, we actually do look at for conditions where patients seek treatment over long periods of time. We actually do look at things like cost utility analyses, looking at quality adjusted life year measures, making sure that um, that it is that it does make sense to continue long treatments over time. That it is, that the quality of life is such that it does make sense to continue these long treatments. Is the quality of life better for this patient based on these long, arduous, oftentimes painful treatments? Is the quality of life better for them? Given these long, painful, and very expensive treatments. So they do those types of analyses for the patients to allow them to make those types of decisions. But typically at the start of a treatment, benefit will outweigh cost, and those types of analyses are available to patients to make those decisions. And then in some cases, unfortunately, when insurance runs out, insurances have caps on coverage for some things, then unfortunately it's up to the patients to make the decision as to whether they can make payment on when cost becomes very high. Patients need to make choices on whether they can make payment on long, expensive types of services. So, okay, so that's what I have for this week. This week, again, we'll be continuing to build upon your final project. So as we're up to week 5 now, so you've probably figured that out, but we're building piece by piece by piece for that final project. And then in the end, we'll be bringing it all together in a comprehensive project, bringing together all these pieces you've been working on throughout. So, and I know I've talked to a few of you already about this, but you don't necessarily need to test this in a live environment, because not everybody works in a live environment, nor do we have the 30, 60, 90 days, 6 months to test these projects. It's more theoretical than anything else. But what we're looking to do is, can you put together that plan that you would perhaps be able to test somewhere? Although I have had the pleasure of having some folks that were able to go out and test in the environment that they worked in, which was really cool, and we were able to kind of see them start some of these tests. So if you are in that environment, great, and if you can share some of that info with us, that's really great. We'd love to see it. But if not, please don't, there's no points deductions. There's no negative side to not being able to test this or not being in that setting. The purpose of this is theoretical at this point, and then hopefully you would be able to apply this in a live setting somewhere down the road when you get to that point in your career. So any questions, please let me know, and I will see everybody in the discussion boards this week. Thanks so much.